Okay, great. So I'm going to call together this first meeting of the Cost Efficiencies Committee. We're going to call this to order at around 3:33 on January 13th. I'm not sure if that's an ominous sign or not, but all those threes in there, we better play the lottery. Anyway, this is the inaugural meeting of the committee. And we have, let's see, we have 7 official members and 1 guest who's gonna observe and sort of see if he wants to be part of our committee. And then I got a note both from Vicki Morrow, that she's been pulled away at something at work, and same with John Lumbra. So those are 2 other members of the committee that have already been part of the appointment process here, but they will join us hopefully on the next one. So just to get started, because I'm sure we all don't know each other, I'd like to kind of go around and just give a couple words about who you are, a little synopsis of your background, and whatever you'd like to say about yourself. Just a minute or 2. So who would like to start?
I'll break the ice. I'm Ed Gibson. I'm the town administrator here in excuse me, Southampton. I've been in this position for about 4 years. Before that, I spent about 4.5 years in Beckett as their town administrator. And before that, I served 11 years as mayor of West Springfield. And before that community service portion of my life, I worked at Aetna and their financial division. And before that, I was in the hardware business for almost 19 years in a retail store, managing that. So that's my quick background.
Very good. All right. Ian, how about I grab you in case you do have to leave us? We'll let you go for it.
Ian Ellingsworth, I'm the police chief here in Southampton. I've been a police officer in town for about 27 years and the police chief for 3.
All right. Lisa?
Hi, I'm Eliza Pluta. I'm the principal at Norris School. I've been at Norris for this is my 8th year. I was in Holyoke for 21 years. I was a teacher for 11, a vice principal for 6, and a principal for 4. I'm so happy to be here and hope that I can contribute to this committee in a way that makes sense for everybody. I've reached out to my constituents, as we'll say, to get their ideas too. So
very good. Thanks. All right. How about Bob?
So my name is Robert Riggs, and I've been a resident here for about 8 years now on Pleasant Street. I'm a small business owner. I've been a small business owner for about 40 years. And I'm in the car business, in the wholesale car business. And I've been a new car dealer. I've been in the wholesale side of things. So I'm an entrepreneur.
Very good. All right, very good. How about Bradley?
Hi, I'm Bradley Oxon. I joined as the town accountant on September 27th, 2021. So just recently, a few months. I graduated from the University of Connecticut in 2015 with a Bachelor's of Science in Accounting, and I worked for Health New England for 4 years in the accounting department.
Great. All right. Janet?
Yes, hi, Janet Kane. Been in Southampton for 13 years, moved here from Long Island. Have worked for Canon USA as a senior director of a product division for a number of years, and prior to that for Kodak, if you remember that brand. Served on the finance committee for 3 years, personnel policies and procedures board previously for 3 years. I'm currently the chair of the Council on Aging board. I'm on the Housing Authority, the Parks Commission, Capital Improvement, and formerly member of the Board of Assessors for 4 years as well. So
you've kind of seen it all, I think. Pretty much. All right.
I have headaches. No.
Good. I'm going to ask Steve to introduce himself. Steve is not a formal member yet. He's somebody who's expressed an interest maybe in joining us. So I asked him to come in today and just sort of witness what we were going to try and do and see if we could tempt his tempt his participation for the next meeting. But Steve, introduce yourself since you're here, please.
Well, thank you. My name is Steve Carreri, and I live on 10 Woodmar here in Southampton. I've only lived in Southampton for a couple of years. I haven't been involved in any of the town committees or anything so far, so this would be my first if I join. My background, I'm now retired, but in my career, I was in a number of financial management positions with Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company for 10 years, and then with a French cheese company, Savencia, with their domestic subsidiary here in the U.S., including a role as their chief financial officer for 7 years. Mm-hmm. So a lot of background in finance and actual manufacturing finance for manufacturing facilities.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks, Steve. Okay, all right, and last but always least here, Chris Fowles, trying to be the one to put all these ad hoc committees together, I think, in town. I'm the chair of the select board currently, and then also the chair of the master plan committee, but have been involved in getting the grants committee up and running, and now this cost efficiencies committee. So my background is I grew up here in town, moved away for my career after college, spent most of my time in international economic development, working in Africa, based in Africa for a number of years, but also out of Washington, D.C. So working on grant programs internationally for some 30 years. And then I retired about 5 years ago and came back home to Southampton. So back home where I grew up. So that's the story. So good. Well, thanks, everybody. I really appreciate everybody getting together. It's hard when we've got a committee and even a couple more coming to find a common time. And I don't know what the best way is to do that. But just in general, before we get into the program, is Thursday, like this being the sort of the end of the work week for the town folks, is this a decent time to do it at the end of a Thursday? Is that a good time to try and meet for most people? Yeah, I'm not seeing any.
I have a little bit of difficulty with it, but I can make it work. If it's only
can you make it work? Okay. Yeah, all right. Well, we'll try to work around it. Our hope is to meet just once a month, so I'm hoping that it won't take a lot of time and a lot of rearranging of everybody's schedules. There might be a time if we get into some heavy duty topic where we might need to meet twice or have a subcommittee meeting or something, but I really hope that we can keep it at a reasonable scheduled time and keep on topic. So that said, let me see if I can share a screen here. Basically, whenever we start something, I would like to just kind of take a look at the charge of the committee itself. I'm going to charge this down just a little bit so it's maybe you hopefully see this. There we go. Is that visible to most people here?
Yes.
So this was kind of the charge that we had started to put together here. And I guess I would say, and Ed, you can certainly chime in, but the idea for this committee started kind of fomenting, I guess I would say, even a year or so ago as we were trying to go through the whole annual budget process in town. And, just trying to find enough money to make the town work and try and do everything that the citizens would like us to do, try and have departments that are staffed and functional and able to retain their employees and do a good job. It's been, somewhat of a challenge. And I think we always end up, nickel and diming and spending hours at select board and finance committee when we get down to the end here, trying to say, okay, well, where can we, find another $1,000 for something? And what do we have to cut in order to get there? So we've gone through that exercise in my 2 years anyway on the select board, and frankly, it's painful. It's unfortunate that we have to be so lean, I guess I would say, in our revenue. That's obviously the way it is because we don't have a great commercial base in town. And so we're basically relying on our tax revenues and a few grants here and there from the state. And that's what keeps us running. So this past year, I think it came a little bit more obvious when we were getting ready for the town meeting and so forth, where even we had trouble with the budget in the, let me think now, this would have been the special town meeting, am I right, Ed, at the end of last year, where we had tried to make a case to improve our financial situation by having not only the base budget, but also an override budget. And that unfortunately did not pass. So it was voted down at the ballot box, and therefore a lot of the cuts and trimming that was necessary had to be put in place. And so it was around those times that we started saying, look, we've got to do something as a priority at the select board level of all the possible things we could kind of make our priority for the year. We at the select board basically voted to make the financial health of the town our top priority for this year, however we could get there. And so this in the beginning here is kind of the notion of it, that we wanted to really kind of sit down and have a broad mixture of people, both town employees, people that are not part of the town employees, but are citizens in town that have got some good background that can really help us think outside the box, bring to us a different perspective maybe from the work that they've been doing, and see how we can tweak that and apply that maybe to a municipal setting. So what we would like to do here, and in terms of this is how it was set up, was to maximize our both the financial and personnel resources, try to look at efficiencies and cost savings in both how we provide services, especially to how we can attract and maintain qualified personnel. We have a real tough road in front of us here with qualified, keeping qualified and well-paid anybody in town, from fire and police, and I imagine it's the same at the school. Last year we lost our town accountant and our town assessor, principal assessor, and so it's challenging when other towns can put out a salary package that's a whole lot more advantageous than Southampton. So this committee came about because we thought we needed to put our heads together and figure out what we could do. So what we're hoping to do is this kind of middle part, try to figure out ways that we can increase revenue, reduce some costs, save some money, and then kind of really look toward ways that we can do things a whole lot better. So it could be that we will find that we have services that another town might want, or we need to get something from another town, and maybe we can consolidate services somehow. But whatever we end up coming up with as our brainstorming and our deliberations here, we kind of want to think about passing it through these various criteria, these 5 right here. So whatever we come up with as ideas, does it, what is the level of cost savings that idea might bring to the table? Does it improve our service delivery? I mean, does it improve our efficiency and our timeliness? Does it help the public access whatever services it might be better? And how feasible is it to implement? We can have all the great ideas, but if it's not feasible to implement, then that's a tricky one, obviously. And then just in general, is there any potential impact, negative or positive? Sometimes you look at things on the surface and find that it's a positive impact, and then all of a sudden there's a negative one that crept in that you had no idea, that was sort of a side, almost a consequence in a way of something that you've done. So that's kind of the lens through which we want to test any of the ideas that we may come up with as we do this kind of internal review. The committee, as you've got us here, and I think you saw it earlier, so we've got some stated members here, and then we have at this meeting, we have Janet, Ian, and Eliza that are, no, sorry, Janet, Ian, and Bradley, sorry, that are representing rather a cluster. So they are part of sort of subgroups, and they have been nominated by their subgroups to be their spokesperson, representative kind of person at the table at the meeting. And we have right now, we have Bob. Do you like to be Bob or Robert?
Bob is fine.
Bob, okay. So we have Bob right now, and maybe Steve, and I think we're still probably looking for someone else as well. So that's kind of the overshot of what we had put together here. And I think that's, a pretty good grouping of people. We've come from very different backgrounds, and you know, just we'll bring a different set of perspectives to the table. So I'm really kind of looking forward to our discussions here. To get us launched, one of the things that I would like to do would be to kind of review or come up with what we might think is our basic goal of the committee, and then our expectations, because I think we have to be all clear on the goal. If we don't know where we're going, the saying is any path will get you there. So we have to have a pretty clear goal, I think. And this, I just took a stab at. I just put something down on paper as a place to get us started. And before I do that, I just forgot one thing I was going to mention. I guess because we kind of called this together, I will be heading this committee. Sorry, I didn't make that overly clear. Just to keep the trains moving on track and coordinating all this. And normally we would have a clerk within the group to take notes, but I'm going to guess that I don't have too many volunteers to be the clerk, which is fine, because actually we are recording these meetings. So they'll be posted on our town website. And Ed, I know you and I had tossed around an idea. Do you think that idea might work? Could you share that idea?
Yes, and that is that my assistant, Judy Zadonis, will transcribe these minutes from the recordings so that no one that is participating needs to be distracted by doing that. So good. Judy will do that, and they'll be brought forward back to the committee at future meetings to be approved and posted.
Very good. Thanks, Ed. I think that would be great. That allows people to really just kind of focus on the task at hand and not, it's hard sometimes to really fully participate when you're also trying to take notes. So I think that's a great solution. So I appreciate that. So with that, I'll jump back to the goal. So just to read it out, to conduct a review of town services and processes with productive critique and analysis, resulting in improved efficiency internally and cost savings to the town budget. Now, those are just words I put on paper to get us started. Feel free, anybody, to jump in and suggest some alternative language, tweak that, something different. Just raise your hand and I'll call on you to jump in. I think I can see everybody pretty much. Any thoughts about that? Does it make sense to everybody to have that as a goal, or something better, different? That's fine.
And it seems like you captured just about my expectation of what I thought it was about. I'm trying to think of any clever words to add in, but I mean, it's.
Well, and I think, just, the idea when I mentioned productive, I mean, we can still tweak this, but if this gets us just a general starting point, productive critique. I mean, I think pretty much it's fair game. I mean, I really want to look at this as an internal review of town services, and anything ought to be able to be commented upon and I think as long as the discussion is constructive criticism, it's fine. We're not intending to pit one department against another. We're not, none of that is what I'm intending for at all. So this needs to be constructive criticism and real analysis of, yeah, we're doing this, but there's something else here that we think we could do better, and this is how we would propose to do it. So I'd like to have that kind of emanate from the group discussion itself. I just realized I can't quite see everybody. So Bradley and Eliza, somewhere, I've lost you, but I assume you're still there. Yes. Did we lose them?
I'm still here.
You're still there. Okay, good.
I'm still here. Yep.
Yeah, I think because I'm sharing, I'm going to reduce this a little bit. Then maybe you'll come back into my screen here. I don't know. Maybe not. No, you don't seem to be. Okay. Well, anyway, shout at me. I guess
everyone's still here.
Okay. Well, shout at me because I can't see everybody's hands. So does anybody have anything that you'd like to contribute to the idea of the goal of this committee, what we're hoping to do in this committee? Anybody? Feel free. Steve, if you have a comment, you're.
Yeah, I'm muted.
Yep.
Yeah, I just had a question.
Yeah.
Is this intended to be a permanent committee?
Well, probably for a year, I would say. And hopefully we can come up with some results of it, and then we'll see where it goes from here. It's an ad hoc committee now, so that does not imply permanency at the moment. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Bradley or Elisa, anything that you might think about? Is that okay to start with anyway? Or
I think it's okay to start with. Yeah, conducting a review of town services. I'm wondering, we're talking about the costs as well, right? The costs of town services?
Yes. Yep.
I think it's implied.
Yeah.
And that's what I have in my head anyway, so.
Okay. All right. Well, I won't, yeah, unless anybody has, yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Any revenues that could be created as well.
Yeah. Okay. To improved efficiency, about if I throw in here revenue generation, maybe if I can type correctly, that would be helpful. How's that? Does that work? Resulting in improved efficiency internally, revenue generation, and cost savings to the town budget. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, let's call it good on that one. So then this, just some first ideas. What are your expectations just in general of how we do things? I think there were some questions early on from those of you that represent clusters about how this was going to work and what your role was. So if anybody would like to share what your thoughts are about that, or what are the expectations of your cluster groups from your discussions that you've had originally, or?
I guess, Chris, my biggest question is, are we gathered together to look at the big picture, not just kind of focus on the cluster itself, but how the cluster could be impacted, or how they might be impacted, or protect them from any potential harm? But as our discussions, I guess I'm not really sure or clear the best way to represent them.
Okay.
The expectation of representation.
Okay.
And are those groups going to bring forward ideas or questions that that aren't getting addressed, and that they're looking for some solutions, or they have some problems that they think maybe outside help will make a difference?
Yeah. So I guess my thinking originally, and we can sort of look back at this, was that the notion of having, well, first of all, having any more than what we had established as a committee would be incredibly cumbersome, I think, to manage for a real good, thorough discussion. So this is already, perhaps 11 members strong by the time we have a couple more people join us. But the idea of having the cluster was that you would be the point person for that cluster. So the idea would be to bring back information from a meeting like this to your cluster. Personally, I'm not expecting, a sit-down meeting with them. I'm expecting you to maybe share information via email to them and say, okay, whatever, here's a task. Here's our next task. We want to look at X. I need you to get me your ideas and thoughts and concerns so that I can bring them forth on behalf of you, my mini group, if you will, to the bigger committee. So I guess if I'm not responding correctly to Janet's point, yes, we are intended to look at the bigger picture, but the intent is to bring in the perspectives from all those different corners, if you will, of the town, and not just to say, well, I'm going to fight for my budget and that's it. This is not intended to be that whatsoever. It's to say, okay, me at the library, or me at the water department, or me at the highway department, what's happening in my domain, and how do I let my cluster person know what my issues and concerns might be, or things that are impossible to budget for, or ways that I could provide my services better, and then that person be the spokesperson back to this committee. That's how it was originally envisioned. I'm hoping we can make it work like that, but I'm willing to take any thoughts about that. So feel free to let me know. Turn on my light here. See something. So Does that seem to make sense, Janet, or is that different than what you were thinking?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was thinking. You know, my cluster of water and building and town clerk and the council on aging is kind of like covers a lot of area.
Yeah.
And I'm not an expert in any of them except
No.
one. So I just want to make sure I get their input and that, you know, this is not, like you said, to discuss how can we protect budgets, you know, for FY23, but to, you know, find ways of doing what we do more efficiently. So I think that helped me better understand. Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to throw that down there just for now. How about just other general expectations of what you would like to see, you know, partly in terms of the process or just in terms of how we kind of conduct ourselves as we get into these deliberations here?
I take a shot?
Yeah, go ahead.
From my perspective, I believe we need to start with, shall we say, inventorying the town services that are provided, and then understanding or knowing what either you call it support or what needs to be provided for delivery support to provide that service. And then to look at commonalities, whether it's, you know, across the clusters or across the entire town, to try to start off by identifying, okay, we've got 4 different departments that are buying propane from 4 different dealers, or, you know, I know we all use IT services. Are there ways that, whether it's department or clusters, are using different vendors, different product suppliers that may be combined, even if those are services rather than products, that can provide us with more efficient services or less costly services by grouping them together and, shall we say, the power of bulk buying, or shall we say bulk service buying.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna make that one actually a separate one. Oh, Chris, sorry. Okay. Good, thanks, Ed. All right. Again, I'm not seeing hands. So anybody, Bradley, for example, anything from your perspective, from what you've seen already on the accounting side of things? And from your cluster?
I think we should just have like focused topics every meeting. And so we're not just winging it every time. We'll have like, we're going to focus on this, or like a broad theme, just to keep us organized and having something to talk about every time. Something different, not the same thing every time. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
But don't forget Monday's a holiday.
Lisa or Ian, are you still out there? Ian, I don't know if you left already.
I did leave. I'm back though.
Okay.
One of the things that for my department, which I want to explore, is leasing cruisers versus buying them. I have reached out to the Chiefs of Police Association for some feedback from other departments that have throughout the state leased cruisers or financed them. I got negative and positive results as a result. However, based on the town demographics, I think it's you just can't go on any other department. So I have to follow up on that on my own and how it would work for our department. I spoke with Randall, and he mentioned perhaps seeing if we can get a contractor to replace streetlights with LED lights versus the regular halogen lights.
You can. The barrier to entry, just so everyone knows on that one, is we have to buy out the existing streetlights from Eversource. Last time we priced that out, it was about $39,000 just to buy them out. So it can be done, but
Okay.
Expensive proposition up front.
Mhm.
Okay.
And currently right now, Ed,
Yeah.
streetlights, it's budgeted for 20,000, I think. Is that what it is for streetlights?
I thought it was a
Last year's
little,
budget.
might be a little bit more than that. I was thinking like 22 or 24, but I'd have
Okay,
to
I
go
just
back and
remember
take a
the
look.
previous budget, we cut it considerably.
Right. Yep.
Right. We did. And guys, for those are good. You know, I'm gonna hold those. I'm putting them in yellow because I'm. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
With Ian, that, you know, as far as that leasing versus buying vehicles, I mean, that's just something that's right up my alley.
Yeah.
I might be able to be some help there, and also
That would be great.
Excuse me.
I'm going to definitely take you up on that if you're offering, Bob.
I would be happy to help you with that, and I think I could be an asset there.
Yeah. I think one of the things that we'll end up doing, I put these couple in yellow because I think they'll jump right onto the next page of as we get going in terms of services and how we can do things a little bit better. So I'm gonna hold them right there for now to not lose them, because I think they're good ideas. They're getting into the specificity, which I want to get into next. But just anything more about just how the meetings themselves are done. I think these are pretty generic and pretty general, which seems to be fine in terms of just clarifying roles or just expectations of you as a member in the committee, what you would, you know, bring that, you know, if there, I guess I would add if there's, you know, if, you know, I guess I would say maybe just a simple one, just open participation. I mean, just being, you know, being an active participation. How's that? Active participation. Okay, so we all are here because we have something to give, and I'd like to have everybody's voice heard, kind of thing.
One of the things also, Chris, is that I want to just put out there to be candid about. I don't know. I want to try to prevent. I'd like to try to prevent departments competing with other departments, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Where we don't want to create an atmosphere of pitting departments against each other, because I don't think that's going to be productive.
Right.
If that could possibly happen, I'm just putting it out there.
Yep.
I just would like to try to refrain from that. I don't think that would be productive if it goes in that direction.
Okay, good to know. Yes, I agree. I think we touched on that maybe while you had stepped out a minute, but yes, this is not intended to be, you know, me and my budget kind of thing, but really trying to take a look at the bigger picture.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I apologize. I didn't know that.
No,
that
that's
was
okay. And I may just put in there, you know, sort of the, you know, the bigger picture.
No, but it gets
yeah, go ahead.
It gets kind of complicated though, because if you're going to get involved in department budgets, you kind of, and to see if you can commonize purchasing and things like that, you kind of need to know what's in there.
Yeah, we'll get into some of that, but I hear, I mean, for example, you know, we have some departments that are probably funded more than others, and so I don't know that we want to accentuate that. I think we want to look at everybody kind of across the board and say, okay, how can we kind of do better across the board without necessarily, you know, having to cut. I mean, this year, for example, okay, this year we had to cut the library. So the library lost or was risking losing their accreditation in order to, you know, be able to balance out our budget. So how do we make sure that, I don't know, I guess whenever we've had to do cuts, we've been trying to be equitable across the board so that every department feels it. Everybody kind of takes their proportional share, if you will. But at the same time, that's hard to do. I mean, I think it's no big secret, Eliza, right? The school takes up a good chunk of our budget. You know, probably 60% of our budget goes to the school. So, and that's fine. It's just, you know, running the town on the rest of it is part of the challenge, Bob, I think. So we do have to kind of take a look at things across the board, but we will at some point, yes, there will be some department level kinds of things probably that we'll get into, but I think we can do that without our discussion intending to, you know, sort of be negative on one and say, well, you know, you have to give up
anything. I was just saying that you need some information to make some decisions.
Yeah, no, we'll need to get some of that information. Yeah, okay. All right, if no other, any other last call for expectations? Otherwise, let's get into the first task. I'd sent you guys a couple of questions just to start thinking about. I'll see if I can do this. Okay, let's see. Okay. So here's where we are. So in inventory, as Ed was just mentioning, you liked my word there. In inventory, the types of services we provide to town residents as a first topic, and some services that we'd like to provide, but we can't afford. And then maybe which of the existing services might be done more efficiently. So that's where, if you don't mind, Ian, I think I'm going to put the, sorry, I'm going to take that idea of the streetlights and the leasing versus purchase vehicles, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Would that fit in there okay?
Sure, sure.
And I guess it's, you know, it's not only vehicles, it could be anything, right? I don't know what things we lease, for example. So that could be
copier machines, you know,
yeah.
I know we lease those.
Yeah, okay. Okay, and then you said replacing streetlights with LEDs, right?
That was a suggestion, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question? And it's related, but it's a little unrelated. It's really for Ed. Just about grant money that's available on the other side of this, so just bringing revenue in. Is the town missing any available grant money anywhere that would help alleviate some of this?
I don't think so, to be honest with you, but you never know. But don't forget, every time you seek out grants, you're actually, shall we say, piling on the administrative end of that.
I know, but just depending on what you're getting in return, like Easthampton, I remember Mike Towsick explained to me, you know, they did, there was some type of a grant that was available to replace those streetlights in Easthampton years ago.
Right, and that would be the type of thing that would make it feasible here in Southampton.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And do we have someone that chases grants, or is it have to all fall on you?
Don't go there, Bob.
I'm sorry.
Don't go there.
All right.
We have an ad hoc grant committee that's got a tyrant at the head of it that doesn't let us miss any.
Okay.
And her name is Chris. Her name's Chris Fowles, Bob. Just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we've started, Bob. Thanks for that. We actually have started just this past year with a grant committee, and we've gotten some money for the bike path and for a couple of other things around town. So we're keeping an eye. There's 4 of us that work on the committee, and we keep an eye on some of the state grants that are out there in any department as they come up, and then talk to the various departments to see if it's something that, you know, interests them and if we can help put in an application.
Okay.
So we've done that. We've brought in about $500,000 over the last year in six different grants. Yep. Right. So, but that's kind of, but I will say that's just, let me think about that. Yeah. Every one of them though is, I guess, what I would call extra things. They would be more kind of special project kind of things. They are not integral to the running of the town.
Is that because that's what you're looking at, or that's because
that's what's out there? That's what's out there. I mean, you don't find the government giving grants to run a municipality. I mean, it's things like for the bike path, like for sidewalks, like for fire department apparatus, or those kinds of things. So some equipment items, but for your basic running costs, not hardly anything would be covered by a grant.
I understand that.
Yeah. Okay.
More replacement or updating.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. No, replacement or updating equipment. Sometimes you can find the right thing at the right time. Yeah. I know, Ian, you've done that, and it has John, the fire chief, just recently. In fact, we just heard from John that he had gotten about a $15,000 grant. That I will say, both the fire and the police chiefs here have been excellent at putting out their own grant applications for their departments themselves and getting some of the basic equipment they need. And so that's been another supplemental thing that's happened, which is great. So yeah, I think we're trying to do that quite a bit. And with the grant committee coming on this past year, we've maybe accelerated that emphasis a bit more. But Ed, just one thing on the LED, you mentioned the barrier was what? Since I have this up here, had to buy out what?
To buy out the existing streetlights from Eversource.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. So we can, any of these three topics, feel free to jump in with anything that you might want to say and tell me which one you want it in. How about, want to start with the inventory of things, just offhand to start with and get it going a little bit? What did we provide? How about recycling? Let me throw one out and just get it going. What else? I don't know.
So, I mean, I feel like it's kind of silly for me to say education, right?
There we go.
Provide the children of Southampton with an education, but we also provide, to get down to nitty gritty, occupational therapy services, speech services, physical therapy services. I mean, I could go on and on. So,
okay.
You know, starting at age 3, really, you know, we do early intervention as well.
And special ed, right?
Yep, and special ed services, which includes the speech and the OT and the PT.
Okay. Okay, good. Yep, absolutely. Okay. What else?
We provide a preschool education. So that's why I say starting at age 3, and we transport students who have been identified for special ed services starting at age 3.
So only those particular kids?
Yeah. I mean, I'll double check that, but I'm pretty sure the ones who qualify for transportation are the ones who are on IEPs. And I'm only going to point that out because when we get to what we want to provide but can't afford is going to be part of that. So I'll hold off for now.
All right. And this would be qualified for IEPs, individual education plans, is that right?
Yes, yes, yep.
All right, I'm learning my vocabulary as I go too.
I know.
All right, how about other services?
And we provide, you know, the senior population with a safe place from for them to be socialized, to be social, and to avoid isolation. And we try to reach out for those in most vulnerable population in town as well.
Okay, good, thanks. Vulnerable. Okay. How about from your parks hat?
Well, I mean,
never mind that. She's got to come up with all those services provided by her entire cluster group.
I know. I was just gonna say we provided marriage licenses, voter registration,
right?
And yes, that's thanks, Ed. Though.
Yeah, we won't get into everything right on down to dog licenses, but I mean, yeah, town clerk services, right? I mean, what do we call them?
I said marriage licenses. I know you think I think of dog licenses before marriage licenses. I did say marriage. I meant to say marriage license. But
various licensing services.
Yeah.
From everything, from building department to, you know, all of those mentioned the town clerk. Yeah. So I'll just put various. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, accurate voting records, and I mean, it's, you know.
Yeah, and what it might be good for those individuals that are cluster representatives. We're not going to remember everything tonight, but you know, between now and the next meeting, if you could go back to those other departments that are in your cluster and say, okay, what specific services does your department supply to town residents and businesses, and then we can fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was going to say good quality drinking water.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And a safe environment for builders.
Meaning
Trying to
what?
think. Well, with the building commissioner, I met with the inspections and make sure that everything is
The building permits, yeah.
Okay. What did I say? Building code enforcement or something, or inspection and.
You're saying,
yeah. But it's just to make sure that, you know, that we're doing things safely for people in town that are either expanding their homes or
building their homes. Exactly.
New homes. Yep.
Yep. Okay. Great. Anything else? EMT services, obviously, right?
Yeah, under the public safety, again, that's that large umbrella similar to education.
Yeah.
You know, we have, as far as the early intervention medical, that starts right from the dispatch, then to the police, then to the fire department or EMS. Law enforcement when it's applicable. Response to disturbances, whether they're domestic disturbances or disturbances in establishments like bars. Also school safety, whether it's lockdown procedures or fire drills. Crime prevention efforts.
Hang on a sec.
And LTC, license to carry firearms, and FID permitting.
Okay, go back to the lockdown again. What was that? Sorry.
Lockdown procedures and fire drill procedures at the school. And then also identifying and addressing quality of life issues within the community.
Tell me if I'm missing anything. I had firearm licensing. Anything else?
And quality of life issues, you know, identifying and addressing.
Okay. I'll retype this a little bit later, but I'm trying to get the gist of it. Was there something else besides firearm licensing? You gave a couple initials there.
It was the same thing. It was firearms. It was LTC and FID, but it's the same thing.
Okay.
That
is the DARE program still there or no?
It is. Yes, it is.
So that again, drug abuse, yeah, or what's it stand for?
You know what? It was formerly drug abuse resistance education, but it's not any longer. It's more of that was years ago. Now it's more about making proper decisions. If I'm correct, right, Eliza?
I know. I was going to say the same thing you said. Drug is.
It's not drug abuse resistance education. It's more about making proper decisions, informed decisions, more so than specific on drugs.
Right.
So it's not just drug related anymore?
No.
Okay, interesting. You also have the drug take back day, yeah?
Yes, we do. Yep. As well as the drug box, the kiosk in our department.
The drop off, yeah. Right. Okay, good.
And just the health department is in my cluster, and so I didn't really mention much about the health department, but the various tasks of the health department.
Right. So that would be some of the Title V inspections and so forth?
Yes, inspections. I mean, specific to the pandemic, we have, contact tracing.
Mm-hmm. Sharps, containers. Did you was there something else in there that I missed? I'm sorry.
No, that's what I had so far. My conversations with everyone are cursory so far, so I haven't gotten
right.
into it.
So this would be, but also I would say restaurant and what is it? Food inspection? Is that it?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. That's quite a lot of stuff we do around town. Yeah. We may as well throw in, on behalf of Randall, plowing and sanding, right?
Yes.
Plowing, sanding, street sweeping.
Road maintenance.
Yep.
Park maintenance.
Yeah.
And I believe they do the school, correct, Eliza? I think they mow the school too.
Yes, they do.
In the cemetery.
Yep.
So public area mowing services.
Mhm.
Gonna make up something. All right. Obviously ambulance. Oh, what did I do? Come back. Ambulance services. I should probably throw back up here somewhere.
Yeah, it was in that early intervention medical. I think we had it.
Yeah.
Let's define that. That's 24/7. What is it?
Yes. So right underneath that is the early intervention medical dispatch through fire to police. So it's 24/7 coverage. At least should be.
Oops. All right. Good. How about we get ed procurement services, right, for all department? I mean, that's probably more internal, but
Like, yeah, procurement services.
procurement and accounting, right?
What's that?
Procurement and accounting services for all.
Yep.
I don't know. Anybody else? Go ahead. Bradley, anybody? Feel free to jump in.
Southampton has a library that has books and movies, TV shows to pick up. There's computers, there's story time, there's book clubs, little programs for the kids.
Yep. Okay. This is a pretty good list. I don't know that we have to get everything. This is quite a big list. Yeah. What do we have?
You know what? I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Chris.
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Can we add to the service that we provide before and after school care? I think that's important.
Sure. Yep. Want to give me some time frames there?
7:30 in the morning before school and until 6 p.m. at night.
Okay. And school would start when? What time?
8:40.
Okay. And ends usually at?
3:20.
Okay. I'm just going to note that for myself and I'll type it in later.
Yeah.
Anywhere near over yet.
Okay.
Chris, could we just also for the COA, I mean, we provide programs that promote wellness in the senior population.
Yes, I can put my cursor where it belongs.
Health and wellness. And for the, just for parks, because you brought them up before, you know, provide management of the fields and programming for youth as well as people of all ages. So youth programs and intergenerational opportunities.
Okay, I think that's pretty good. Let's move on to question 2 here. I'm trying to keep rolling on time so we stay within our parameters here a little bit, hopefully. What services would we like to provide but we can't afford? So I've heard 2 in my lifetime recently. A planning, or at least a part-time planning person. And a conservation agent.
Or one and the same.
Or combined. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Other thoughts? What would we like to do that we can't do? What do we run into a wall on all the time?
I'm going to throw in off of what you did, and I'll do this. An administrative person, part-time, for building and health.
Hang on. Go away. Hit the wrong thing. Part-time admin person for building and health departments. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. And then you can duplicate that for police and fire.
Okay, right now, highway has their own person. Does water commissioner have anybody? Or
No.
do they share highway? No.
They did share highway, but they have broken away from that.
Okay. Yep. So these guys don't have anything. Yep. All right. Any other thing that's come to anybody's attention? Yep. Go ahead.
You know, it's hard because it's a school, right? So every year I come up with my budget wants, and I don't want to go through an exhaustive list of what I could use to, you know, but I will say the biggest thing is an autism program, a program to support students with autism.
Okay. All right.
And this, you know, like our language-based classroom that we were able to create 3 years ago, this will prevent students from going out of district for those services.
Okay.
And we are paying big bucks out to contract services for a BCBA, like a behavioral consultant, some registered behavioral technicians to take data and analyze data on students and their needs. And so if we just bit the bullet and spent the money, we wouldn't have to continue to spend the money, the majority of the money that we're spending now.
Okay.
For SPED services. And then the other.
Sorry, that was, you said like for the language, what was it again?
The language-based classroom.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
So then the other thing I would say is provide transportation services to special ed students, which would cut down on the cost that we bill the town for transportation. So right now we're paying van pool a heck of a lot of money to transport students to these special programs. And if we had our own program here and or another van, we would be able to provide transportation services in-house at a much lower rate than what we are charged. I think we're charged like $200 a day or something ridiculous.
Okay. All right, good. No, these are good. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, and we also talked about leasing a van, you know, paying monthly rather than purchasing a $70,000 van vehicle. So that can go somewhere else. But.
Yeah. Well, when we get into that leasing, I think that can be across multiple departments, maybe. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Chris,
Anything else?
A kitchen facility in the senior center to provide meals for the less fortunate seniors in town. I'm trying to think if Jim Alunas would like us to find more water someplace.
Yeah, really.
and
For real.
what would sewers fall under? I mean, so.
Yeah,
Those are kind of big services, but.
Well, I mean, they're valid. I mean, more, well, hello.
Is there money out there for things like sewer systems?
Well, maybe in this new ARPA money, we'll have some, but and again, it's a challenge to find the right source of these. Some of these could be federal funds, maybe. So public sewer development, I think we've usually talked around along Route 10, right? Or
they're in the Hamden Ponds area.
Okay. My fingers are getting tired.
Easthampton, I mean, right over on Line Street.
On Line Street, yeah, that's a good point, Bob. Yeah.
What was that about Line Street?
Yeah, off of Line Street as well.
Right on the corner on Line Street. I mean, it's a quarter mile from my house.
Mm-hmm. So that, I mean, that's where there's already where it ends is what you mean from Easthampton?
Easthampton is pretty much all on sewer.
Yeah, right. No. So in terms of what we don't have here in town, yeah, is these areas, yeah. And then, yeah.
And Line Street.
And Line Street. Okay, I missed that then.
I just put it's close by.
Got it. Okay, I missed what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay.
Not that there's commercial property over there, but it's still.
Just because it's close to Easthampton End, right?
Right.
Close enough. Okay.
And I don't know what you do about a water supply that can sustain us as we grow, but you know that we already have the agreement with Easthampton, but
yeah. Okay. Anything else? That looks pretty good so far here. It's quite a list. All right. I'll come up to wherever this question is, and then. So do we have a thought about things? And you know, we can probably expand on this if we have a couple more members that join us for the next meeting. We can add to this, but this at least gets us thinking somewhere. We'll have to figure out where to take it from here. But any services that might be done more efficiently, or any thoughts here? Yeah, Janet.
Just a question. You're going to send this out to us, so maybe we can share it with our.
I will. Yep.
Cluster.
Will do.
Chris,
yep.
Yes. Chris, something that we talk about, we actually talked about it today at our principals meeting with the superintendent. If the Hampshire Regional School District had a shared maintenance plan among us, you know, I'm trying to figure out how does that save money to the town of Southampton? Well, my budget would be less if I was paying less, if we were sharing, you know. So let's say we use Jamrog or we use VG Mechanical, and every school in the district has a different one. And I pay some, you know, $3,000 a year for them to change over my MERV 13 filters or whatever. And so does every other school. Well, if we combine that maintenance plan, we might get a discount, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense for us to do that in Southampton with, you know, the police department, the fire department, the school, town hall, you know. I'm sure mine is the biggest bill, right? So I'm not sure it makes sense, but just something that we talk about.
Okay.
I think
and of course, the reasons why it doesn't work for us is what came up with us is some of these people that support our schools can't get all the way to Chesterfield, Goshen, you know, the New Hingham school where I am right now. You know, they can't travel this far. It's a wide range of places to go.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And that's why they all have their own maintenance contract kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. But the same thing, like Ian said, I'm leasing copiers. He's leasing copiers. You know, can we afford to buy a copier? And then when the copier breaks, you have to buy a new one. Well, leasing it is way easier as long as you stay within the copy, you know, clicks per copy and color copies and all that stuff, which we found to be cheaper.
Okay. Great. Bob, did I hear you say something? Go ahead if you did.
No, I just think that should be looked at. I mean, it kind of across the board, any common services that all these different departments share, everything from buying paper to any contracts.
Yep.
The maintenance on buildings, whatever, I think should be looked at and possibly combined whenever it's suitable.
The same thing with, and I know now we're talking about contracts. So my custodians, at one point the town hall used one of my half-time custodians as a half-time custodian as well. So it had nothing to do with cost savings, right? It had something to do with, I had a person that wanted to work full-time, but I only had a half-time position. So she did the other half for town hall. But can we do something like that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think right now, right, our custodian does town hall and the library, right, and senior center, right?
Oh.
And the police station.
And the police station. Okay.
I'm looking at your list you have right here. We're looking for a part-time admin person, possibly for building and health departments and for police and fire. I mean, can that be one person?
No, because we're trying to keep it part-time and under benefits of 20 hours a week. You could, but then you're going to have basically someone that's going to get benefited.
Okay.
For the amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So Chris,
Okay.
I'm like a PO-based purchasing system of some sort. So you get a requisition and a purchase order before you go out and spend.
Oh, okay. So what would you call that, Ed? You've been dealing with that.
It's called a purchase order system.
Okay. Thank you.
And we actually have one.
We do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why does it feel like we always sign off after the fact? Purchase order system improvements then, or?
You just say use.
Oh, well, okay, that would work.
Chris, what about IT services?
Yeah, I lost it. I had it there.
Yeah, what happened to it?
I probably erased it by mistake. Never mind.
Yeah, you did.
My fingers are getting a little tired here. Service support. Whatever. Yep. Okay.
And centralized purchase. I mean centralized purchasing, because I don't know that we have a centralized purchasing system. I know maybe it's there and it's not used as to phrase as words, or
What's a centralized purchasing system?
it goes through one person.
And go back up and then add another person for centralized purchasing under that other wish list. But I get you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can also on that other list, we can add a human resource person as well. While you're there, Chris.
Okay.
Yep, that's true. And we're currently working on that. So shame on you for forgetting that.
Yeah, really. What did we say? Human resource?
Human resource person or whatever.
Okay. Good. Yeah, good points. All right. I think, Ed, you were talking about some improvement, or Bradley, about financial software.
Yep. And that's hopefully one thing we may be able to implement through some of the ARPA funds. So, but yes, financial software upgrade, payroll, including payroll, because there's systems out there that are, shall we say, a lot more efficient and redundant than the one we're currently using.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll throw it on here, although we're just to know that we've got one that we're working on right now, but I'll put it down for whatever. We're doing the voice over IP at Town Hall. In progress. So just
what does that mean? What is that? A voice over IP? What is that?
Ed, you can explain that.
It means you're basically going to changing your telephone system from a hardwired system to, I'll say, an internet-based system.
Okay, gotcha, yeah.
And it'll make it more efficient where somebody can call into Town Hall and get swapped off to the right department. And I mean, it's, it should have.
And we all have voicemail and everything else.
So it would make things a little bit more functional, I think, at the department level. But yeah, Janet, you look like you were saying something.
I was just going to say, and it's kind of broad, but exploring regionalization of certain areas. I don't.
Yeah, does it fit here? I guess.
I mean,
yeah, maybe. Yep. Okay. Okay. Anything else? A couple more minutes of anything? It's quite a good list, I think, guys. Maintenance of buildings, of town buildings, yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. You mentioned, somebody mentioned something about fuel procurement. You guys have got WEX cards, you've got propane tanks, you've got, I don't know what it all is, but tell me a little bit, Ian, maybe. How do you get
the police department uses WEX cards. So, and I think the highway department has their own tanks.
Okay.
For anything that they have gas, they have WEX cards too, because even though they don't have many gasoline vehicles, most of them are diesel, they still need gas for things like chainsaws, weed whackers, and so forth. So
they have
and the water department has WEX cards too.
Yeah.
So is,
and
I mean, is that
the fire department does.
I mean, and are those okay? I mean, we have.
I believe that they are. I think what happened was there was a town tanks for both diesel and gas, but the replacement of the tanks were were far too expensive.
Okay, so I don't really need to have fuel on here then.
Unless somebody else has a different opinion of it.
No, okay, I'll take it up. I was just trying to think of anything else. Okay. Anything in terms of hours of operation? Does our town hall not being open on Friday, does that cause a problem with the citizens to our knowledge, or are we fine at being a 4-hour a week?
It's
4 hours, 4 day a week.
I don't think it matters, does it?
I don't know.
No, I mean, if you're open more hours, whether that's going into the evening or going into the Fridays, you are available to the public to do business, obviously more. So that's advantageous to the residents and the business holders.
Yeah.
I was thinking that we should add more options for residents to pay for things online. Like I know they can pay taxes, but certain other things like licenses. And at one time, someone called me and asked if they could pay for their speeding ticket online. And I told them that we don't have that option. So I directed them to the police department.
You transferred them, right, Bradley? Oh, no, you couldn't transfer them.
I gave them their number.
Thanks, Bradley. Appreciate that.
Anytime.
Yeah, okay. And I think they can they not do like building permits online and things like that? We already
can.
Yeah.
They can now do dog licenses online.
We can?
Currently. Okay.
You can pay your water bill online along with your taxes.
Okay. Put that in here. Good, that's good. Do people take advantage of it? Sort of.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. Now that's good. All right. All right. If there's nothing else, does it seem like a pretty good comprehensive list? It's quite a bit of stuff that we put down here. I will definitely tidy this up and I'll mark it draft. So this wouldn't be an approved set of minutes, but this is just minutes that I'll send around so that we can be thinking about any of these items, and certainly the cluster people can share them with their cluster peoples, their cluster groups, and see if there's anything else we can add to them when we meet at the next meeting before we actually would approve these. So with this in mind, and kind of following up on Bradley's suggestion about having a focus topic for the next meeting. This was my hope to just kind of brainstorm this and get us launched. Any ideas about how we would like to tackle this? Where would you like to start? Would it be the services we'd like to provide and can't afford, or do we need to really go back into some of these services and find out? I think it was, maybe it was on another page that Ed talked about, where are the commonalities? I guess that would be a thought I might have, is that we take some of these things, and whether it's on number one, probably number one. I don't know. Is it possible to put a cost next to a lot of these, Ed, and then just get an idea? You know, some of these may not be terribly costly, and they're not going to be necessarily a service that we could farm out to another community, or get from another community, or necessarily save any money on. So let me just stop sharing this and go back to our other thing. I'm saving, a better save, you better save. Okay. All right. Remember the one that we had said, where was it? Expectations notes. So remember I had said that we wanted to take a look at these things through this lens right here. Would you see us kind of going through that list of town services that we just did and trying to apply some of these criteria to see if this makes some sense? And that would imply that we would need to have some level of current budget figures next to each of these tasks, or many of them that we can identify as a separate, to the extent we can identify them as a separate budget item. I don't know if we can break out all of them, but many of them we ought to be able to break out. I don't know, but what makes sense? How would you like to proceed?
Chris, do we have a timeline, at least as far as like how long this, what's our goal, our timeline? What's our project goal?
Okay.
Because I think a lot of those suggestions, what we need, might not fit within this project goal, time frame wise. So.
Yep.
Where do just to get a focus on this, or what are we looking at? Are we trying to make this so we can implement something within the next 6 months, year, 2 years, 3 years? I think that might be able to narrow down some of the topics here.
I think, and Ed, certainly jump in. My original thinking was that we would get started on this. I was actually hoping we'd start last month, but we're getting going now. I guess I was hoping that we would be able to get at least a start on this and have a handful of things, whatever they might be, whether it's shared maintenance services perhaps, or a service we could maybe earn some money from. It may take a while to negotiate with another town, so that may be a longer term thing. But things that would be maybe I hate the term, but I'll use it, the low-hanging fruit that could help us in our new budget season coming up. You know, as we're working on developing budgets now at the various department levels, there'll be, meetings before the finance committee for every department to justify their budget requests, and then trying to help, say, okay, well, you're asking for this, but have you, thought about X? So that maybe, the idea of a shared or leased copier service might be something that would impact several departments' budgets, for example, if we thought that was a good idea. So I guess at least I kind of see it in two phases to see if we can get something done for, well, pretty much by April. We've got to narrow down and finalize the budget, right, Ed?
Right, but I think you're on the right track, except I'm going to go, there's three phases. There's short term,
yep,
low-hanging fruit that we might be able to implement for fiscal year 23.
Right.
There is, shall we say, midterm.
For 23, right, sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's midterm, which we could implement for 24. And then I think there's some of these things in here that are long-term, which could be 25 or 26.
Okay.
I mean, with time is of the essence. I wonder if that low-hanging fruit should get addressed sooner than later.
Very,
sure.
As a priority.
Excellent suggestion, Ian.
Yeah, okay. So could a homework task be over the next couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, to identify which of this group looks like it should be a low-hanging fruit? Is that evident to people, or is that, I mean, is that something you all could do kind of in your, you know, at your own level, at your own, you know, in your own right, and or as a member of a cluster, a representative of a cluster, talking to your cluster members? Do you think that would be identifiable out of that list of town services that we would want to take a look at first and foremost?
I think that's possible. You'll forward us this information, the list and everything?
Yes, I will. Yep.
Okay.
And I'd like to share the list with my clusters so that they may have a couple items that are, you know, that I haven't identified that they might add to it that are more low hanging fruit. So that's, you know, and that I could do as soon as I get this, and then get some feedback from them.
Yeah, no, that would be the idea would be to circulate it to your cluster groups. I guess I would want to have any additions to this. I'd ask that be made on a separate note, not added to this, because this would be more like the minutes of the meeting that we would eventually approve. But then when we bring that back at the next meeting, we could be adding to this list based on your discussions with your departments or groups. Is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah, Ed, anything? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to add that when they talk with their cluster groups, that the other thing that those cluster groups should look at is any services that we did not list out here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Please.
Yes. Okay. Good. All right. How about Bob? Any thoughts from your perspective, not being an employee or part of a cluster, but coming in as a member of the general public? Any thoughts that you might have to help direct us here?
Really add to it, because kind of being on the outside looking in, I've got no complaints with the town. I think the services we provide are pretty good, the ones that I'm aware of or have used. I mean, something that I think I could get involved in is specific items, whether that's purchasing or negotiating or discussions about leases versus buying and things like that. I mean, if there's a specific issue, I think I could add some value. I'm willing to help.
Great. Good. All right. Okay. Well, I think at this point in time, we can kind of call it quits. It's almost 5 o'clock, which is our time. Could we take a look and see what would be a good date for a next meeting? Today being the 13th, basically 4 weeks out would be February 10th.
Not to put a wrench into anything, but if we're looking at low-hanging fruit that we can change before like May, season and the budget season, we're not. I mean, maybe this next meeting should come a little bit sooner, and then I'm the last person that volunteers to have another meeting, but I'm just wondering if we wait another month and then we redo it, and then it's another month, and then we've missed the,
you do have a point. So if we were to focus just on any additions to this based on your feedback with your groups and or your departments, and then came back and really tried to tackle, the low-hanging fruit. You're right. A month is quite a ways out. So what would be what's anybody thinking? If we keep it on a Thursday for now, 27th, that's only 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Anybody? Bradley, Ian?
I'm the 27th. I think I'm fine with. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm fine with the 27th or the 3rd. Yep.
Okay.
Well, I may have a conflict with the 27th, but I can try to work it out.
Okay. All right. Well, let's aim. I'll schedule something for the 27th, and if it looks like it's falling apart, somebody let me know. Okay. But let's go for the 27th at the same time at 3:30. Okay. Good. So with that, I just want to thank everybody for your time. And, this is the first meeting to get rolling, and I feel like I've talked too much, but I wanted to get us started here. And I'm hoping we can, have a real good, solid shared discussion on things. So I think this is something we need to do. And I really, really appreciate everybody being here and willing to give your thoughts and perspective. I mean, anything's fair game as far as I'm concerned to talk about that helps us along the goal here. So thanks again. And I guess for formality's sake, could we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, please.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We'll call ourselves.
Well done,
adjourned.
everybody.
Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great
Yeah.
weekend.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye,
Take
everybody.
care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good job, Chris.
Thanks.